The New Slave Trade. Part 1.
Today's big story is migration. We'll focus on some of the issues and, of course, the language behind the topic, and we'll look at how migration is reported in the news. The International Organization for Migration is based in Geneva. It has members from more than 100 countries and works with migrants and governments to set up policies to manage migration flows for the benefit of all. I spoke on the telephone to the IOM's spokesperson, Jean-Philippe Chauzy, and I wondered first of all if he could provide us with a working definition of the term migrant.
Well, yes, so the general definition is for someone who will leave his or her home country to go and work abroad for a period of time, which can vary between several months to several years. Now, if you're looking at a broader definition, you are looking also at people who will at some point decide to circulate, in other words, to migrate from one country to another, following opportunities on the global labor market. Or you're looking at the other end of the spectrum, people who will be smuggled across international borders in a irregular fashion, clandestine fashion, and will end up in exploitative networks, whether in forced labor or in networks of sexual exploitation.
Migration itself isn't a new phenomenon. In fact, during the 19th century, roughly 1 in 10 people could be classed as an international migrant. But how does this compare with the situation today? I asked Jean-Philippe Chauzy why people choose to leave their country of birth and how many people are doing this.
Well, first, I think it's fair to say that there's no country in the world that remains unaffected by international migration flows. Today, most countries in the world are either countries of origin, of transit, or of destination for migrants. Some of them are all three simultaneously. The numbers we have are just estimates. I mean, if you're looking at a stock number for the number of international migrants today worldwide, well, the figure is hovering around 175 million migrants worldwide. That means that roughly one person in 35 in the world today is a migrant.
Part 2.
Well, as you say, those are quite staggering figures, and I guess people are moving for different reasons.
Yes, absolutely. If you're looking at economic migration, it's most of the time, obviously, it's the lack of socio-economic prospects at home that will push people to leave, to migrate in search of better opportunities. So that's probably one of the main push factors. But you could also obviously look at the issue of bad governance, and also the fact that you do have people who flee, obviously, conflict, civil strife. So all these are push factors.
And if there are these push factors that lead people to migrate, I guess you might refer as well to pull factors. What might these pull factors be?
Amongst the pull factors, the fact that migrants know that they will find employment or better paid employment in the country of destination. Most of the time that is in the informal sector. There's also the fact that in many countries there are large diasporas that will facilitate the arrival of the migrants. It's also fair to say that you have now some highly organized criminal networks that are operating, or smuggling or trafficking networks that are operating worldwide, that are making huge amounts of money, billions of dollars every year, either helping migrants who cross borders illegally, and these are smugglers, or helping migrants cross borders illegally to keep those migrants in very exploitative networks. We're looking more now at trafficking networks. A lot of people want to migrate, but there are few channels to allow them to do so legally. So what most would-be migrants will do at some point is look at ways of using smuggling and trafficking networks. And that has a very serious impact, on the well-being of the migrant, who might find himself or herself in very exploitative situations and very dangerous, physically dangerous situations. It also has a negative impact on the host society, because migrants who resort to smugglers and traffickers will never be able to integrate. If they have children, they'll have great difficulties sending their children to school. Their rights will be abused. One of the other aspects is that because there are fewer channels for people to migrate legally, and because migrants will probably turn at some point towards smuggling and trafficking networks, this benefits highly organized criminal networks today that are making billions of dollars every year smuggling and trafficking people. It's become, in a way, the new slave trade.